Hello everyone, welcome to another webinar. My name's Carl. You can maybe see that we're in the middle of packing. I don't have a chair anymore, so I'm using the couch. Gonna be moving to Iowa here soon, so sorry for the mess behind me, but hope you're enjoying the Olympic trials and watching some awesome performances. Today, I'm gonna get myself a little bit out of the way here. Today we're going to be kind of talking about coaching tips for practice and meets and kind of general, ideas behind running a swim meet or a swim team, I should say, and some of the good ideas behind that maybe we can share. We dive more in depth into these in our books, and if you use the code webinar20, you get 20% off on our website, swimsmarttoday.com. I'm also going to be referencing like a few videos that we made recently, and I'll show you where you can see more of those at the end. So stick around for that. And of course, if you think you benefited from this and other people might, like, share, subscribe, all the usual. So let's dive in. So first thing I do every time I'm on deck, or like if it's a brand new season, I reiterate, especially to the younger kids, what we're here for, right? And what we're here for is like what is a team, okay? So to me, a team is where people are accountable for other people, right? And so one person's success is everyone's joy. So the example I like to give is Neil Armstrong went to the moon. He landed on the moon. Of course, we all get to say that we went to the moon. Human beings went to the moon, even though only 12 people actually stepped on the surface of the moon. And so that's an example, like on a team, if only one person on the team makes the Olympic trials, if you have one person swimming at the trials right now on your team, it was a team effort, right? The coaches, the swimmers, the parents, they all get to participate in that person's success. On the back end of that, one person's failure is everyone's fault, right? So I'd like to keep the kids as accountable to each other and to the team as much as possible, right? Because swimming sucks, it's really hard, and if you're not doing it for a bigger cause than yourself, then you're going to quit early and you're not going to reach your maximum potential, and you're not going to be the fastest swimmer you could be. So that's what the goal is to use the team kind of goal, or the team, it's like a higher order goal to improve even at the individual level. So I would start the season out with that kind of with that lesson, right? Day one, 9, 10, 18, 19-year-olds, they all get this, they all get the lesson. Okay, so what makes an actual great team? You might be thinking, well, obviously, Carl, fast swimmers make a great team. I'm going to scooch myself out of the way. Okay, maybe, but most people are not fast swimmers. In fact, you're only fast compared to the next person next to you, right? And I can make an argument that the only fast swimmer in the world in that event is the one who wins gold medal at the Olympics, right? Everybody else is slow compared to that one person. So if that's going to be our goal, is great swimming equals great team, I think we're going to find ourselves failing a lot of the time. And I'm not alone in believing this. If you go across basketball, NFL, different team sports, they'll kind of all say the same thing if you listen to like the big thinkers that are around there. So in my mind, a great team is really the process of making a great team. Like we said, one person's success is everyone's joy, one person's failure is everyone's fault. The process is way more important than the result. So whether you're coaching summer league kids that only come once or twice a week, or you're coaching college kids, I think the process is what makes a great team. So how do we get to that point? Well, we have to build up the character of our swimmers, and I think I talked about this on our psychology webinar a couple weeks ago, but always good to reinforce it. So if you're coaching and you focus on character, and what is character defined as for us? There's a couple things. Performance skills, so these are the things that the kids actually do in the water: hard work, positive attitude, being accountable, being resilient, all these different factors. But also on the other end, they have these moral skills that we would like to teach them. they're honest, they're respectful, they're loyal, they're encouraging. So once you have that foundation of skills, whether the kids swim fast or not throughout their careers, you have a great team. I will tell you that right now. So, but hopefully, in a practical sense, we are still swim coaches. We still want the kids to swim fast. Their character will feed into their process. So what does process mean? It means they show up to practice. It means they show up to practice early. It means that they try their best on every set, that they're not just going through the motions. It means that they're talking to you before and after swim meets or races at a swim meet to ask what they can do better. And if they do these processes over and over and over again, obviously, most of the time, this will result in them being a fast swimmer, right? At least relative to themselves. If at the very least, we can compare one swimmer at the beginning of the season to the same swimmer at the end of the season. And if they're getting better, we have a good result. We have a great team. And so that's kind of what I encourage all coaches to focus on, rather than, oh, I just want my kids to swim faster and faster. I mean, I think you'll get there more often and with much happier swimmers if you go through this hierarchy process rather than jumping to the end of the line. So other things that make a great team: you have to be a committed leader, and we're going to go over the job description for not only you, but all parts of the team. So I think there's 3 parts of every team. There's a coach, there's swimmers, obviously, and there's parents. But the teams, I mean, you're going to be the spearhead of the spear. So you're going to decide how your swimmers are, how your parents are, and if you're a committed leader, that will come along, and I'll show you what that process looks like. We want parents to feed good behavior, obviously, and we talked about not being fast, not being required. Okay, great. Let us move. So now I want to go through each of the parts of the team: coaches, swimmers, parents, and articulate what their job description is. So a team, I see most teams struggle, or like drama arises when people don't know what their job is, okay? Especially when it comes to parents and swimmers, but even for coaches. I've seen coaches who don't know what their job is, and they kind of go outside the lines, or they don't fill up their role, and so it creates drama on the team, and you don't have a good team if you have drama. Okay, so let's start with the coach's job. What's your job description? I would say you could boil it down to 2 things, which are these here in the middle. Your job is to set the expectations higher than the swimmer is comfortable with, right? And you need to motivate them to reach that goal. So I kind of diagram it like this. This is our swimmer dot here in the middle. This is their starting point. And if you left it up to the swimmer and you told them, well, how fast do you want to be, or how hard do you want to try this season? They'd say like, oh, I want to go here. Okay, and where is the dot that they choose? The dot that they will always choose is inside the comfort zone, right? Nobody, even ourselves, we never choose to push ourselves outside of the comfort zone. This is why we're on a team. It's because we need other people to push us and motivate us to get out of the comfort zone. So your job as a coach is to set the dot here, way outside, and then your job is to also encourage swimmers to get to that point, right? So if that's all you took away from this slide, I'd be super happy. Your job as a coach: set the expectation higher than they're comfortable and motivate them to reach it, right? Okay, how are we going to motivate them to reach it? Let's erase some lines here. I think one of the best ways you can is you set a team goal. So if the whole team is challenging themselves towards a certain point, so we want to have a relay at junior nationals, or we want to qualify so many people for this and that meet, or we want to be able to swim we want everyone to be able to swim a 10,000 yard practice one time, right? There's a team goal, and when things get hard in the middle of the season, you can reference the team goal like, hey, we're all still focused on this item, right? We're going to get top 3 at high school. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And so the whole team is working towards one goal. I think that if you do that as a coach, this will set you apart from many others. And then your job is really the next part of it is all the education that you do. So You have to educate, if you're a head coach, you have to educate your assistant coaches. You have to educate the newer ones, the new hires, the swim lesson people, right? So if you just let them kind of do their own thing, well, you're going to get a team that does its own thing. But if you're a leader and kind of controlling or teaching what you want your team to look like to your coaches, well, then that's what you'll get. Great. Swimmers, I start the season by teaching them what the team is, but then throughout the whole season, I mean, there's always lessons. That's the great thing about swimming, is that it can teach us so much and kind of be a simulation for real life. And so if you educate your swimmers, that'll be good. Educating parents, I would say this is where most coaches fail, and this is where most of the drama comes from, right? The parents want one thing, the coach want one thing, and sometimes we're not in agreement as to what those things are. And if you don't make an effort to reach out to parents and take the first step in teaching them what your team should look like, what swimmers should do, how to behave at swim meets, you're going to run into, I think that's where most problems are. But if you're upfront and you're transparent and you say, hey, this is how we do things, this is how we want things to go, I think the season will go much smoother, and you'll get more support from parents, and the team will get better. Of course, if you're not educated and you're not reading about these different topics or watching some smart videos every time we make them, again, I think you'll struggle. So you want to take time out of your week to educate yourself, read books that are on these topics, and kind of build yourself throughout the season or throughout your career. And then, of course, building the business, which is a whole nother video. Maybe we'll make that later. But if you can't pay yourself, you can't pay your assistant coaches, if you can't pay for equipment, somebody else who's more motivated to take care of that side of the business is going to come and replace you. So it is important. It may not be something that you want to think about, but it's something that should be in the back of your mind. And if you take care of it, if you worry about it sooner rather than later, then it's something you don't have to worry about later down the road. But again, that's a kind of a topic for a different day. Maybe we'll make a video on that. All right. Swimmers, they probably have the easiest job on the swim team. They really just have to show up, do their best. And then, of course, I encourage them to have them make others do their best, right? So that's what being on a team is all about. It's not just about you, it's about the person next to you. And I think I've given this example in prior talks. Simon Sinek, he's kind of like this motivational guy, speaker, and he always gives the example of when he went and talked to the Navy SEALs, and he asked the instructors of the Navy SEALs, like, how do you know who's going to succeed the training? Who's going to survive the training, right? They have a huge dropout rate in BUD/S. And they tell him it's not the strongest, it's not the fastest, it's not the high school, captain of the football team. It's the person who, in their worst moments, still encourages their fellow teammates. That's who makes it through Navy SEAL training. And swimming is kind of, it may not be quite at that level, although sometimes I bet you we work our way up there. Those are the swimmers who survive this tough sport. It's the ones who are dedicated to the team, and they try to make everyone around them better. Okay, what other things can swimmers do to help be a team? Well, they should look like a team and act like one, right? That's kind of the easiest thing. And coaches can set up these requirements. You don't have to show up like day one and put them all out there. But you can kind of build up season by season. Maybe season one, you say, hey, we're going to have a team cap. The team is going to buy all these caps. We're going to hand them out for free. When you're at practice, when you're at swim meets, these are the caps we wear because this is our team, this is our brand, and this is who we are. Next season, maybe you add swimsuits. Like, okay, we're going to have a few selection of team suits. Maybe you don't have to wear them at practice, but definitely at swim meets, we're all going to be looking the same, and we're going to act like we're on the same team. Swimmers should start warm up, and they should start sets all together, right? So we're not going to just send everybody off to do their individual training. You're here as a group. We want you to do things together. We want you to look like you're doing them together, and when you look like a team, act like a team, that's what you'll be. You'll be a team. And of course, when you're at swim meets, we want the kids to sit together, not just to look like a team, but also, I mean, that's where you hang out with your friends. That's when you get to have fun. And if everybody's off with their parents, doing their own thing, head in their phones, it's not going to be any good. And we're not going to have fun. Coaches are not going to have fun. You're not going to have fun. Everybody's going to quit by the end of the season. And then, we kind of dive into this in the books a little more about setting goals. And there's different types of goals. There's like dream goals and season goals and process goals, all these kind of things. Again, you talk to your coach and kind of develop those. We won't dive into them too much here. All right, parents' job. I'm working on a book right now, the Swim Parents Starter Guide. It's very difficult to do because you want to partner with parents, right? The parents want what's best for their kids, but most parents these days, and I'm actually reading a book right now called Bad Therapy, most parents these days struggle to let their kids fail, right? I'm kind of jumping the gun on a lot of these topics, so I'm just kind of going off the cuff. But I think if I had to boil down one thing that parents can do for their kids in swimming is let them fail. Failure is the greatest teacher, right? Even Yoda says this. And kids really don't build resilience and they don't build strength unless they are allowed to have these moments where they struggle and they have to depend on themselves to get through it, right? So how do we, teaching parents about that and having references to books and articles and videos, YouTube talks about these things, you're going to generate a lot more smoothness in your team, getting parents on board with that goal, right? But let's bring it back to some like more practical points, like what can parents do to help on the team? Most parents are the drivers, especially for young kids. So if you can get your kid to practice early, that will make many coaches happy. If you're on time, we say you're late, but if you get them early, first off, that's when kids get to hang out and like talk to their friends. Once their faces are in the water, it's kind of tough to make friends or talk to each other about the day when there's water everywhere and you could breathe it in. So getting kids to practice early sets them up so that they get warmed up, they kind of stretch, and then they get to talk to everybody, their coaches and their friends. We like parents who support, but again, like I said, if you interfere with the failing process and the growing process and the character building, you're going to limit how the kids grow. And I think the kids they're not gonna feel like they own their swimming, and we want them to own their swimming. And we want for it to belong to them. It's kind of a simulation for real life, right? So that when they graduate swimming, they have learned many life lessons, which they will take to bigger and better things, marriages, careers, kids, and they will not fail as much when they get there. Another thing that we like parents to do is to really see yourself as part of the team. Volunteer, officiate, managing meets. If I actually ran the numbers for the book. If you were to build a pool from scratch and you took all the costs involved in building the pool, maintaining the pool, running swim meets, if you took an average team and an average cost for all of these things, the average swimmer you'd have to pay $500 a month to be on a swim team. Okay, so most swim teams don't charge $500 a month. They charge $100, $150 maybe. So where's the other $400 of value going? Well, it comes from, or where is it coming from? It comes from parents who are volunteering to help kind of build this environment for their swimmers and for their community. And so getting involved really helps bring the total cost down. You're subsidizing the sport essentially, right? But that's because none of us want to pay $500 a month as much as we love swimming, that's a lot of money, and we can't really do that. So getting volunteers, or at least voluntold to be on the team, maybe that's a better word for it. Again, that's gonna help so much if that's your parent job. Okay, so now we're going to transition to like practice. So these next few slides are dedicated for the coaches out there, and it's kind of coaching tips on how to behave or how to run or how to organize the team and operate during practice and during swim meets. So let's start with team organization. I mean, obviously, you have a big group of kids. You know, you have 100 kids. They walk on deck, and they're all ages. You got 8-year-olds to 18-year-olds. They can't all do the same workout. They don't all have the same goals. And in the books, we kind of we stratify these in different chapters. So we're gonna break them up. But the question is how to break them up. This is how we do things on our team. You don't have to do them this way. You can disagree. That's fine. But maybe there's a couple points in here that you'll like. I'll go through these points and explain why we like to do it this way. So we try to limit how many groups we have. So we do 3 to 4 groups. Here they're listed as like novice, age group, senior, pre-senior. So these are like your, and the way we divvy up these groups is by age, not by ability. Now this is kind of a 90% rule. So there might be some exceptions to the rules, but first you need the rules, okay? And the reason we do this is kids go to where they're happy, and they're usually happy when they're with their friends, okay? So if you split kids up by ability, most likely you're going to be splitting up different friend groups. So if you have elementary school kids who go to school together, have recess together, they have lunch together, and then they get to swim team and you split them all up, well, now they're with strangers and they're with people of different ages, and they're not going to be cohesive. They're not going to make friends as well. And if they're not having fun at swim practice, they're going to leave and they're going to go do something else. And your team will not grow and the kids will not get better if they're not at swim practice. So we do it by age mostly. Sometimes we have an outlier that we move up or down. But for the most part, we do it by age and kind of keep everybody in their friend group. And that way they grow together on the team. We usually have one main assistant coach like per group, and so you can look at this diagram to see how we illustrate it. So you have a novice group, so these are like our 8 and unders, and they have their dedicated coach. And then you have your age group. This is like 9 to 11, 9 to 12-year-olds, and they have their own coach. Same with the older kids. And so the reason we do this is that we have a kind of a chain of command, right? So if the kids or the parents of the novice group have issues or questions or struggles, they should first go to their dedicated assistant coach, right? And then if things are still struggling or things are not, they still have questions or they're not happy with something, then they kind of elevate their concerns to the head coach, right? And the head coach, of course, they're coaching their own group too. So this way, and this happens at swim meets. So let's say you're at a swim meet. I'll give you an example. An 8-year-old comes to their coach, and the coach says, you need to go all out, or you need to do this and you do that. The 8-year-old's like, no, I don't like that idea. I'm going to go to a different coach, and I'm going to ask for their advice. Well, this is a breaking of the command structure, right? So that coach should know, I'm not coaching that swimmer directly, so I'm going to redirect them back to their coach, right? So we want swimmers to work in tandem with their coaches, because their coaches are usually thinking not just for that swim meet but for the whole season. So they might have goals that they want to achieve. Okay, so that's how we kind of organize things, and we try to hold swimmers and parents and other coaches accountable to the structure. Okay, so we don't have practice or meet requirements on our team, although I can understand in bigger cities. We're kind of a small town in central Iowa. I can understand in big cities where this would be necessary, especially when you have a lot of kids who are interested in being on the swim team, and you have to choose at some point like who you can accept and who you have to turn away. So this one I'm not like too, I wouldn't die on the hill for it, but I would say if you can, challenge yourself as a coach to create an environment where this doesn't need to be a rule, right? Where people want to show up to practice and they want to show up to swim meets. And it's kind of more of a challenge on coaches to create an environment where that's true. Private lessons are never a replacement for practice. You'll come across some parents and swimmers who think they can try to do this. I would make a practice requirement to be able to do individual swim lessons. So you have to show up to practice 50%, 75% of the time before you're eligible for swim lessons. And then for our team, we do encourage or essentially require high school participation. And that's because high school really can develop a team spirit a little bit better, actually a lot better than club swimming. So we want the kids to, again, create a friend group, create a team, feel that they're part of something bigger, and being part of high school can really push them towards that. All right. So how do we run practice? This is kind of our tips on that. We like to keep things as simple as we can, but it always starts out with coming very early and coming prepared with a plan. So I think a couple weeks ago listed a bunch of videos showing how we develop this plan that I'm mentioning, how we write these workouts, the focus behind them. So I'll show you where to see the playlist for all that, so you can go through it and kind of learn on your own. But regardless of whether you do what we advocate or your own thing, I think you should come with a plan, and you should come early and set. And this should all be like written up on the board before any of the swimmers show up, or at least very early on before we hit the water. First off, it shows that you care, like you're a leader, and that you're there early and you want what's best for the kids. And so if you show them that you care in this way, they will dedicate more effort into what you have planned for them. Okay. We start with a standard warm-up. So sometimes things happen and people are running behind, people show up late, maybe you show up late, car broke down, okay, great. So let's create a buffer where the kids do a standard warm-up. It's the exact same warm-up every single day. They're going to do 3 100s on the 130, then 450s on a minute stroke, and then 200 kick, whatever you choose it to be. You standardize it. So if a kid comes in late, they can jump in, they know where they're going. You don't have to waste time explaining things. If you show up late, another coach can get your kids started, and then by the time you show up, you know what's been going on. I think it's so helpful. Like this unburdens you a lot. We do 2, maybe 3 sets a day, and for each set, I would pull the kids out, especially younger kids. I pull them out of the water, gather around the whiteboard, and we go through the set together mentally. This is what I want you to do. This is why I want you to do it. This is how we're going to do it. And the reason is I want them to the set should be teaching them something, right? It should be teaching them something about their stroke, something about the race, something about technique. And so when I write sets, that's what I write them for. It's not just to do training. We're not training for the sake of training. We're training for an actual event or an actual swim meet. And so I want the kids to understand that before we get started. And then we go back, and when we do the set, the whole team does the set. So we're not going to have one lane start at the top and another lane start at the bottom, and each kid is kind of doing their own thing. One kid's doing this drill, another kid's doing that drill. Everybody's going to be doing the same thing. We're going to look good doing it. We're going to look like we're, almost like the Borg, like our brains are attached to each other, and that I'm sorry, that might be a reference over most people's head. That's a Star Trek reference, the Borg. But we want the kids to look like they're doing it together. And then, especially on younger kids, we always work on technique stuff. Okay. Pro practice tips. If I had to summarize a few things, the first thing is that coaches, especially when you have very high expectations and the kids, that the kids can reach the expectations, but they're not, right? Okay. We've all had these moments where it starts to kind of boil your blood, right? You know that they can streamline off every wall, but they're not. You know that they can do a 25 in 12 strokes, but they're doing it in 16. You know that they're supposed to be doing triangle drill, but they're just swimming whatever, right? So they're not listening. They're not engaged. We need to reorient their brain activity to a higher level. Okay, so we can use our guilt and anger tools, but I always teach, especially the younger coaches, there has to be a methodology to this madness, right? And I think if you've been doing this long enough, we've all been victims to it, including myself, where you just get kind of really upset at the kids and you let them have it, and it's kind of random and it's not targeted. So I've kind of developed a few set of rules to help us use this tool in a little bit better way. So first off, it should be pre-planned. So I've even written it like on Sunday, I'll write the whole week's workouts, and I'll write like on Tuesday, 10 minutes to get mad and get the kids reoriented, right? So, so it's almost premeditated, and it's not like I'm not really angry at them, but I use the emotion to get them to elevate their performance, right? And to elevate their mental engagement. So that's rule number one. It should be fairly premeditated. So don't ever like get mad at kids just because, you're mad at something. Number two, you always direct it towards the entire team, right? So as we said on the first slide, one person's failure is everyone's fault. So everybody's going to get a talking to, even if there's just a few people who are not swimming up to your standards, right? It's almost like Gordon Ramsay. If you've ever watched Hell's Kitchen or Kitchen Nightmares, right? What does Gordon Ramsay says? He says, I'm going to hold you to my standards, and he gets really upset when you're not at that level, right? So we want that. But we're going to do it to everybody. If you single out one person, that's closer to bullying rather than actually getting the entire team motivated, right? And if you're kind of upset at everybody, not every people they don't take it as personal this way. Okay, so step number 3. So that was step 1 and 2. Step 1, premeditated. Step 2, target the team, not an individual. Step 3, start the set over, right? So don't just go back into where you were, start over, because we need to do things right from the beginning all the time. And then you as a coach should go back to being a normal coach. So don't go pouting in the corner and just with your arms folded and you don't care about practice anymore. Okay, you need to go back to being normal coaching. So you're giving feedback, you're saying, hey, that was a good 25, do it again. So you go back to normal coaching, and then the kids, you'll see, they'll elevate, they'll do better. They'll make the times, whatever it is. But then this is where the diagram comes in. So you started here, you got mad, you brought them low, okay? So now they're low and they're thinking that I need to do better. When they're done with the set, you need to bring things full circle. So you need to pull them out of the water and be like, look, did you see the change? Before I got mad, you were sloppy. After I got mad, you were sharp. Did you see the change? Look, I know the reason I got mad is because I know you can do it better, and now you know you can do it better, right? So you have to rebuild it and bring it full circle. If you don't do that, they're just going to think you hate them. And if they think you hate them, they won't stay on the team forever. But if you bring it full circle, you showed that you weren't just mad for no reason. You were mad because you knew that they could do better and that you care. And man, they will really take it that way. I promise you. So that's my soapbox on using anger or guilt as a tool during practice. Okay, so let's look at some of these other ones. I think you should have a 20% failure rate. So your sets should be hard enough that the kids fail 20% out of the time in some way. They don't make the interval, they don't hold the technique, they don't apply the race strategy, like they don't do 3 dolphin kicks off of every wall. And we're not going to get mad every single time, right? Because if you get mad every single day, it's going to be diminishing returns. But you want the kids to feel like, you want them to learn that failure is okay and it's part of the building process, right? I've had times where kids will do a set and they fail the interval, and in a week or in a few days, I'll write the exact same set and I'll tell them, look, last week we didn't make this interval, but we're going to try it again, because failure is not final. We're always we want to overcome this set. We want to show that we're growing and that we're getting better. So I like a 20% failure rule. That's kind of how hard the sets should be. You're always going to have a group of kids, 1 or 2, kind of at the bottom of the pool, right? whether it's genetically they can't keep up, or whether they're just young and kind of out of it, or they're being forced to be at swim team. I'll tell you firsthand, if you pour all your energy into those kids, you'll probably lose all your energy. It's better. I've found it that it's better to just leave them alone, as long as they're not disrupting practice and they're not being like, they're not getting in the way of everybody else. Just let them be. Most of the time they'll grow into it. Most of the time they'll start to catch on to what they need to be doing, and to make practice fun for themselves and to make themselves like motivated. Eventually it'll click like, no, I actually want to get better at this, and then they'll start working hard. But if you try too hard to get that bottom 10% elevated to the top 10%, you're more likely to push them off the team rather than to actually improve them to that point. So if you have a group of kids that are just kind of there, they're happy, they're not as good, it's okay. Just let it be. Kids will always ask to play games. You want them to have the mentality that games are like vacation. You work 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, and then once or twice a year you get a nice vacation. That's what games are. So that's the mentality we want kids to think about, that it's something that's earned, not something that is like the rule. Okay. And then we want parents, we love it when parents come and watch practice. We like it, but we want them to be somewhere kind of at a distance, right? And it's not because we're hiding anything. I know that's kind of a big topic these days. In 2024, we have nothing to hide, right? You should be transparent with parents, but we want the kids to own swimming, right? We want them to experience the successes, the failures, the interaction with other kids, the interaction with other coaches. And if parents are hovering too much, it's going to take away from that experience. And we don't want that. Okay, great. Coaching at meets. I think we're towards the end. This is the last slide. Some tips at coaching at swim meets. So this is where the fun is made, right? We like to work hard, and then we get to a meet and we want to swim fast. So first things first, signing kids up for events. Now, this is going to depend on a few things. It's going to depend on the age of the kid. It's going to depend on the parents. It's going to depend on what coaches do. The important thing here is that you're transparent with parents about how it should be done, or how you want it to be done, or how they want it to be done. Okay, so because different people are going to have different goals. So let's take a 10-year-old, for example. The 10-year-old, for sure, I can guarantee, does not want to swim the 500. Okay, you as a coach want them to swim the 500 because it's good for them. So you might sign them up for that. And then from the parents' point of view, remember that the parents have to pay for every event, right? So if you get the thumbs up from a parent, say, hey, sign my kid up for whatever you want, don't worry about the money. Okay, at least you've been transparent there. But if a parent says, no, we only have enough money for a few events or one day, you need to make sure that all of these things are outlined before you go signing kids up for events. As kids get older, then it becomes more of a discussion. Like, okay, what do you want to swim this swim meet? What do you want to focus on? What races do we want to challenge ourselves with? So I put this as a line item, but there's no real rule other than you want to be upfront and transparent and talk to the parents and the kids about what events they're going to do. Because if they just show up to a meet and they discover that they're in the 500 and the 400 IM and the 200 butterfly, you're going to have some drama that day, and your day is not going to go as fun, and you're not going to have as much fun coaching at the meet. And so meets should be fun. Okay, before every session, you should get the whole team together and give them a team meeting, right? And you should tell them, I mean, you can be motivational, you can give them, a pep talk, but I would encourage you also to have goals in mind throughout the season. So for instance, towards the beginning of the season, the goal for me at swim meets is to see technique, right? So we've been working on technique, and now I want to transfer that technique from practice to the swim meet. I don't care as much how fast we're going. I care more that we're doing things right early on. Then in the middle of the season, I switch things up. Now we're worried about race strategy. So how are we going to pace things? How many dolphin kicks are we going to do? What's our timing on breathing? Race strategy becomes more important than race technique. And then towards the end of the season, the last couple swim meets, we don't care about anything other than going fast. So now we're racing, beat the kid next to you, right? So and beating the kid next to you is motivation, not just like malice, for instance. Okay, so you have a team meeting before each session to outline these goals so that everybody knows what they're doing. We like our swimmers to talk to their coaches before and after every race, especially the younger swimmers, because they have a lot to learn and a lot to focus on. So before the race, I've made this mistake where I want you to focus on your tempo and your head position and make sure you do 3 dolphin kicks off the wall. That's too much for a 9, 10, 11-year-old. Focus on one thing. On this backstroke, I want you to do 4 dolphin kicks off of every wall. That's it, right? Make one focus off of that race. And then when the kid goes, they swim the race, they come back to you, they debrief. You went this fast, you did this good, you did this bad. One thing that they did good, one thing that they did maybe poorly, something that we're going to work on. Then they can go cool down. Then they can go talk to their parents. Then they can go talk to their swimmers. But we make this clear before the swim meet starts. Like, we send it out to an email to the parents. We say, hey, parents, if your kid comes to you after the race, first thing you should ask them, did you talk to your coach? If they haven't talked to their coach, send them to us. We need to talk because we want them to get better. And usually they're hyper-focused at this point. So they're really thinking hard about how they can get better. And so it's easier to kind of instill like brain nuggets at this time. One of the things that I've come to appreciate is you want to bring the kids to center emotionally. So this is the diagram here. So after a race, kids are usually, they're feeling one of 4 emotions. They're either angry or sad that they had a bad swim, okay? Or they're super happy or apathetic, and they just don't care, right? So they're in one of these 4 categories, okay? Your job as a coach is to bring them back to center, right? Because number one, being overly emotional is, not helpful. And we have number 2, we have a lot more swimming to do. This is probably early in the weekend, and let's say, let's take an example, right? Kid swims their first race and it doesn't go as planned and they're super pissed. They're pissed and they're sad. And, the first thing that they're going to think, because I know they're thinking this because I've thought of it, great, my whole weekend is shot. I'm going to swim like crap all weekend. Well, first off, we don't know that. Secondly, we don't want that to happen. And if they're angry or sad, that's definitely going to happen. So your job as a coach is to bring them back to center. So if they're angry, you need to bring them closer towards apathy. If they're sad, you need to bring them closer towards happiness, right? You focus on what they did well. You focus on the technique that we're working on. You change their expectations in a way to bring them to the center. Take the flip side. Maybe a kid swims a great race. They drop 10 seconds in their 200. They come to you. They're super, super happy. And that's great. We want the kids to be happy. But we also want them to improve. So you say, hey, you had a great race. You dropped so many seconds. This is what you did good. But also, remember, we need to work on, your breathing. We need to work on your tempo. I think you could improve on this. And so we never just let it kind of go. We never let the kids just kind of go off the rails emotionally, right? We want them to come back to center and focus on something. Maybe they're apathetic and they don't care, and then you have to bring your anger to them to get them to be motivated and care about what they're doing, right? We don't want them to travel across the country, waste everyone's time. Okay, great. That's my spiel on that. Let's erase some of these things and get them out of the way. The last thing that you should be doing, and maybe this is the most important as a coach, is you want to collect data, and specifically, what are the weaknesses of the team? So you're training day to day. You may not see what the group is struggling with until you get to a swim meet. And then everybody who swam the 200 fell apart on the third 50. Or everybody who swam the 50 didn't have enough top speed to keep up with everybody else, or everybody on your team who swam breaststroke got beat on their pullouts off of every wall. So now you've identified a weakness, and you're going to take that weakness next week. You're gonna make that your focus for the week of training, right? So on the other videos that I'll show you here in a minute, we talk about when you write your sets, you should be focusing on at least a weakness that the group has to improve them and get them better. And where you find those weaknesses is at the swim meet. So you should also be looking in general, like, okay, my group, what are we struggling at, and what can we work on to improve throughout the remainder of the season. So again, thank you so much for sticking through the whole talk. If you did, we got the coupon code, books, courses, products, this and that. But for today, usually I kind of show you guys where to find those, the website. But today I'm going to show you the YouTube channel. So if you go to YouTube and you find Swim Smart, we have a very fast growing subscriber base. I should say, like 6 months ago, I think we had less than 600 people. So now we're well over 1,000. Tons of videos about technique, about drills, about dryland. But most recently, if you go to playlists here and these download tutorials, we'll pause that there. We have a whole list here. Can I zoom in? I can't zoom in. We have a whole list here about these free downloadables that kind of go, and the videos themselves kind of go through a lot of the things that I skipped over today. So how to write sets, how to write templates, how to focus on this, how to focus on that, season planning, stuff like that. So these are kind of more educational things if you want to dive in a little deeper into some of the topics that we mentioned today. But otherwise, thanks again for watching, and hopefully we'll see you on the next live stream.